Hi, I'm Isaiah. I'm the host of the Self-Lane Restaurant and Technology Podcast. And I'm here with the Director of Operations, Woody, and Hass, the CEO of Pizza 9 and Fundaxi. How are you guys doing today?
Marvelous.
Yeah.
Nice rain happening outside, so we're good.
Yeah, so Hass, we want to talk to you today about how you got started in the restaurant industry and what knowledge, wisdom, warning you have for people who are getting started in this field.
Well, that's a $64,000 question.
Okay, well, give us the $10 answer.
So, I've known, of course, Woody, we go back a long time, many years,
Yeah.
But, I'm a civil engineer by degree, but I started working at restaurants just to pay my way through college.
Yeah. Where did you go to college?
I went to college at Iowa State.
State.
And I was going to continue to get master's in at UNM or this. That's what I wanted to start, and then I started in the food worked for PepsiCo Pizza Hut.
You worked for PepsiCo originally?
Yes.
That's really interesting because Charlie also, he was a physicist. He got a degree in particle physics from Purdue, and then he ended up going into restaurants. So it's interesting to me that you had such a technical degree, and then you chose to go a little bit more entrepreneurial and unorthodox. Why did you go away from engineering into restaurants?
I think it's just, by probably maybe chance or by just kind of when I was working in the restaurant. I mean, maybe having great bosses helped.
Sure.
I think I had people that were passionate about the business and they built my interest in it. And I think one thing about restaurant industry is, you can see the instant gratification or satisfaction from the guests.
Right.
As you're serving them good food or good pizza, so you can see their smiles on their face, and I think it's satisfying.
Yeah.
And the fact that as a GM, once you become a GM, you can set your own hours. I know the hours could be long or short, but you could have the day off that you like.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of pros and cons to that.
Right. So when you started at PepsiCo, were you a GM or where did you start?
No, I was assistant manager, then I became a GM.
Wow.
Then, just kind of moved on special projects, and, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then I started my own company.
Oh, wow.
So
what was the first company you started?
So me and with a friend of mine from college, he had some savings, and he said, let's put it together, and we opened a pizza place back in Chicago, and that was my first project.
Wow, that was a bold move. So did you guys do deep dish, or was it a little bit?
Deep dish, a lot of deep dish and some thin crust. Of course, in Chicago
you gotta
area, everybody that loses their job, they open a pizza place. So there's always a pizza place in every corner.
Yeah,
so,
that's a very competitive place to start a pizza place. What did you do to make your restaurant stand out? And what was its name? What was the first name of the restaurant?
That one was Pizzas by Marcelloni.
Okay.
Marcelloni. Yeah, and we opened quite a few. There's still a few of them left in Pennsylvania. We had
really?
3. We have these a few in Chicago. Back. So I did that until from '86 to probably '96.
Okay.
And then I went back overseas for a while, and just kind of trying to figure out what would be the next project that would be exciting.
Yeah. So the pizza place in Chicago, that was after you met Woody.
Yes. Yeah.
So when did you guys meet?
So we met when I was a GM at a Pizza Hut here in Albuquerque back in the 80s. Mm-hmm. At the beginning of the 80s, Woody had a produce company called Ready Produce, and we would he made our lives much easier because he would have every item that would go on the pizza as far as vegetable items. He would have it ready to go. You just open up, purchase the bags from him, open the bags, and put the items on the pie. And that was really saved us a lot of time. Safety issues because our employees didn't have to cut anything.
See, instead of selling them a head of lettuce, we put together the salad mix.
Okay.
So all they had to do is open up the bag and put it on their salad bar, or we would dice the onions and we would slice the bell peppers. And
So it was pre-prepped, basically.
Mhm.
And for fast
Fantastic.
food, you needed to have that extra speed, and also obviously make it as easy
And
that-
safety, yeah.
Yeah, so that any teenager who's working at Pizza Hut can open the bag, put the stuff on the pizza. So how did you get into Ready Produce? Because I know you started at Pizza Hut.
Started at Pizza Hut, and it was one of these items where open mouth insert project.
Yeah.
I told my area manager and regional manager, I had this idea and of supplying produce. We needed to find a produce company that would pre-make it to save labor and to save on, injuries, the safety issue and stuff like that.
Right.
And so they go, good, when do you start?
Yeah.
And so with the little money that I had, started that adventure with that. I was the city marketing manager for Pizza Hut at the time. And so started with a couple of buddies that we went in and
How did you source your produce? That's what I was always interested by, is that it's like there's so many steps, obviously, from a farmer or who was actually growing it to.
in the beginning, I went to the same people that gave Pizza Hut or sold Pizza Hut the produce.
Who was that?
That was Hutchinson Fruit Company at the time.
Okay.
And then from there, I'd buy in bulk because now I'm doing. First there was 7 restaurants, and then there was 14, then there was 21, then all of a sudden I went statewide.
Oh, wow.
With it, sending trucks to Raton, Vegas, Santa Fe, Los Alamos.
And you guys so you would only see him occasionally. You guys weren't working in the same store.
No,
Because you
no.
were just a manager of one Pizza Hut in Albuquerque?
Yes. I was the manager of one Pizza Hut of course Woody was very hands-on, so we would see him because he would be checking on the quality of his products and everything else. So it was a really great program. And then, so that was great. And then I ran into him about a year ago, so a few months ago back in.
And you recognized him?
Yeah.
Does he look big?
I think he recognized me.
Yeah.
You guys basically look the same that you did back then?
Lighter hair.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. It's a small world,
Yeah, well, Albuquerque especially is very small.
So yeah, but that was a good, you just the trajectory that you take in your life, where you go,
Yeah.
But you're asking about restaurant business. I mean, you have to have passion. It is hard work, and it's the business of dealing with people. So if you get the right people, which the last few years has been, becoming
Difficult,
more of
yeah.
a challenge for a lot of restaurateurs.
Oh, yeah,
But
staff.
nevertheless, if you can figure it out, I think you can have a good business.
Yeah, what Woody and I always talk about when we work with restaurants is we're always looking for managers, like who's the number one, because a lot of owners have, they're usually successful owners are very involved, they're there,
Right.
but the manager is usually the workhorse, right? That's the person who's like really, checking shifts, calling servers, doing everything.
Right.
So what do you look for when you're hiring a manager?
I think first of all, do they? I guess dedication, passion towards the business, knowledge. Are they humble? If they don't have the knowledge, are they willing to learn. You know, you have to be a student at this all your lives, you know,
Yeah.
because everything is changing all the time. So, are they willing to learn? You know, are they stubborn?
Yeah.
You know, so there is all that. There's a lot of criterias. I mean, we have one for our staff, I guess, that can apply to our managers too. We call it CHIA, character, hard work, integrity, attitude.
Okay.
And you know, we have a lot of those cards made up.
Yeah.
And you know, so yeah, actually, I think I have one. in the packet. But that's really one of the
Founding tenets.
cornerstone. Yeah, of course, there's so many other things. We have something we made was you know, qualities of a great manager.
Yeah.
You know, I have a list based of probably about 50, 100 items on there that, you know,
Yeah.
it's an early riser. So there's a lot
A
involved.
lot
with
that goes into it. It's
that
not
whole
just-
process.
Do you normally promote from within? Are you looking
Well,
at people who are?
that's definitely what you like to do. But
Yeah.
you know, the last few years has been much tougher. I think a lot of companies have gone to outside and trying to, you know, to fill in their vacancy.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can promote from within, that's the best case scenario.
Right. You just don't get that as much nowadays because people aren't sticking with the restaurant field as much, right? It seems like a lot of people, since COVID specifically, they're just switching jobs as soon as there's any hard work that has to be done. It's usually a little bit because everyone wants to just find what's the easiest job that pays them the most, and working hard in a restaurant for this length of time, like it's a huge investment in time before you start seeing that payoff. Is the other thing that we see a lot of the time, is that the margins are so small and you're working so much. What about working in a restaurant or working in that field, you know, what I always joke about with people is that it's like if someone told you that, right, you wouldn't invest in it. You wouldn't think that this is like, it takes a special kind of person who can see the value in feeding people and working with people to actually go into it. Yeah.
Passion.
Well, the restaurant industry is still very rewarding, but it's just very rewarding for the top few percent. I think, you know, I ask my managers, I mean, what do you have to do to be a $250,000 a year manager? You know, if you want to make a great money, I mean, a lot of, you know, average GM in this industry makes around $50,000-$60,000.
Right.
But you know, if you want to make $150,000, what do you have to do? I mean, you have to be above and beyond a lot of your peers. You know.
Yeah.
You know, be a great. You know, what I believe. I go by the scale of a net promoter score, where net promoter score of on a scale of 0 to 10. You know, 0 to 6 is a failing grade, 7 and 8 is neutral, and
Right.
9 and 10 is where you go home and you tell your partner and your wife, hey, you know, have you been to this place? This place is great.
Right. Yeah.
So, can our managers accomplish a 9 and 10? I think if a manager can accomplish a 9 and 10 with majority of their customers, then they are over $100,000 a year manager.
Right.
You know. But how many places in the city that if I tell you right now, can you tell me, you know, what place I can go to that would have a net promoter score of 9 or 10?
Right.
You know, so I think, yeah, there's a lot of work one has to do to get to that point, and this can be very rewarding. I mean, we see there's some chains that do really pay very well.
Oh yeah.
You know, but then they have the top of the line manager, you know.
Right, and they have to have that
Right.
quality throughout. I mean, Woody and I a lot of the time talk about, I see that, you know, it's funny that you put integrity on here because that's Woody's biggest thing that we always talk about, is that what Woody always says is his integrity is more important to him than his family, because without his integrity, he can't take care of his family.
Right.
So how do you think integrity plays a role in a restaurant or any business, honestly? And Woody, you can chime in here too. I know you have a lot of feelings about integrity.
Integrity has been a lost art. People, you know, I always say that integrity is like a credit score. You can lose it immediately. Integrity is the only thing that you personally own. Nobody else owns it. Our money, it says property of the United States. Your driver's license is it. Your home, you may have the title to it, but the counties and the state, you still have to pay them to keep your home. But your integrity is something that you don't have to work hard to keep it.
Yeah.
Just use it.
Right.
You know, say what you're going to do what you're going to say. Don't fabricate. Don't, you know, do anything that will harm it, because once you lose it, sometimes you never get it back.
Right.
You know.
I mean, that's very, very critical.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because I think when you're running a business, right, I think what he says, I think the biggest one that I always think about with restaurants is the doing what you say you're going to do, right? Like, we're talking a lot about staffing, and just the most fundamental, right, is no call, no show, right? Where it's, if you're not calling, if you're not showing up for work, the business can't function, right? Everybody else has to pick up that slack. I remember as my time as a server, how I had so much guilt ever about missing a shift, right? Because I felt like I was a part of a team, and I knew from, you know, being on the other side of that when people would no call, no show, and all of a sudden, you know, you're covering 3 extra sections that you shouldn't be. So how do you deal with that, you know, big issue in a restaurant, and how do you look for the people who you think have high integrity?
Yeah, I always say management by example. I mean, of course, you know, if your employees know you're committed and that you do what you say you would do, and then holding them accountable, and being fair to all of them, I think it's still not that difficult to run a great show, great restaurant. It starts from the top.
Yeah.
And that manager, when they manage by example. Let's say you're a manager, you schedule at 8:00, and you know you're the one that has the key to your restaurant, and the cook is waiting there at 8, and you show up at 8:10.
Right.
You know, do you pay that extra 10 minutes to that cook that was standing outside, or do you just go in and have him clock in, and the guy just lost 10 minutes because you were late?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of different things you
those
have
little
to
things
figure out.
there, too.
Those little things, hey, you know, you got to let them clock in that extra 10 minutes. You also got to apologize to them for being late, you know, because you were the one that was late, because that's what you're setting an example. I think all of that, it starts with those little things, and they add up.
Yeah.
And how you treat them, they're going to treat your customers the same way.
Right.
And you know, what the attitude you have towards the customers, and what you say in the back of the kitchen, they are all hearing it.
Yeah.
So you know, at the end of the day, we are in a great industry. Our people eat food 3 times a day, and you know, we are in a great industry. But to be great at it and do a great job, you need to work with the great people and great managers.
Right.
I've definitely enjoyed this industry.
Yeah, good.
All my life, it's been nice. You
Yeah.
know, I'm steering towards a business that kind of helps this industry, but that's
Right. So fun. So just to connect it all, you went overseas and then you came back.
Right.
And we're talking about how leadership is such an important thing,
Right.
and this is how you're starting all these different companies. So when you came back from being overseas, did you come back to New Mexico?
Yeah,
or?
New Mexico, and we set up a series of restaurants. We are Pizza 9 Hospitality Group, which we own and operate pizza restaurants.
How many locations do you guys have?
We have about 20 locations. Our whole hospitality group.
Wow.
That has we have a few Revel Burgers that just do burgers and chicken sandwiches. Then we have a Mediterranean called Chello, and then we have the Pizza 9s. we had a manager that moved to Stockholm, Sweden, and he opened 3 pizza nights there.
Wow, so you're international.
But other than that, other than that part, most of our activities in New Mexico.
Great.
Because we find out once you go past your base, it's much more difficult.
Yeah.
So that's so I've always been involved in just the restaurant aspect of it, and it's enjoyable. Whatever food. Of course, New Mexico is more challenging. Sometimes I wonder if we started in a different state, where we would be.
Right.
Because we took the franchising route, and there's not a lot of investor operators in this part of the country.
Oh, okay.
Compared to, let's say, California or
Probably
Arizona.
even Texas, right?
Yeah, or Texas also. But nevertheless, once you set up your shop, then you're kind of there, and you gotta continue, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
And then from there, we came to how do we help restaurants gain more customers? That's where we created Fundaxi.
Okay, and Fundaxi is your charity group where it's a foundation and you partner restaurants with charitable causes. So I know you've done a lot for fallen officers. What other kinds of charity organizations do you collaborate with?
So Fundaxi is a for-profit organization.
Oh, okay.
We set it up where basically we looked at restaurants, say they have a busy Friday, but on Mondays they're not busy. You have organizations that come in, whether it's a nonprofit or just any cause, like someone that is trying to raise money for a kidney transplant.
Oh, wow, okay.
So they don't have to be a 501.
Yeah.
They don't have to be a 501c. So they will come into the restaurant owner, manager, say, I want to do a fundraiser here, and they'll bring in their supporters. Let's say they bring in $2,000 business. That restaurant will donate, 30%, 40%, 50%. We encourage that restaurant to donate as much as they can to the cause, because they are gaining a lot of first-time customers.
Right.
So we did that with our group of restaurants, and it worked really well. We had fundraisers where they have blown the hinges off the door. I mean, after 2-3 o'clock, we couldn't take any more orders.
Wow.
I remember one particular fundraiser we had where the neighbors were raising money for this kid that was having surgery in New York. In this particular restaurant, it was on a Thursday, they did usually about $1,000-$1,200. We ended up doing over $6,000.
Wow.
And we couldn't really handle it because we weren't ready for 10 times more business, So that part of it, got me thinking, if we can do it in our restaurants, it can be done in all the other restaurants. So we put the platform together, the website, and all the things that would make it easier for a restaurant to join.
Right.
And that's what we created Fundaxi, and that was done before the pandemic, actually.
Oh, wow.
We rolled it out, and then we went through the pandemic time, which things slowed down, and but nevertheless, we have a really nice complete program for any restaurant. We just signed a restaurant in St. Paul, Minnesota, a pizza place called Dodge Pizza.
Wow.
So they pay us a fee. It's a fee they pay, it's around $690 a year.
Okay.
Or they can pay a one-time fee of yearly of $99 and $49 for each fundraiser. So there's an option on that. And then let's say your organization, your church, your high school wants to do a fundraiser. They would go select a restaurant. They send in a request. The request goes to the restaurant manager owner. That restaurant manager owner will approve it or deny it or modify it.
Okay.
They can change that, and then once it's approved, then all the marketing materials is printed out. You give it to your group, and all your group has to do when they come in on that day of the fundraiser, they show that on their cell phone or they have a printed copy or so, and the restaurant operator the next day they add up the tickets, and they write them a check for that percentage that they committed. So it's really a win-win-win situation.
Yeah.
But what I like about it is basically because they get a lot of, so if you're a restaurant operator and you're standing there and asking those people, have you been here before? You're going to find out 80-90% of them had never set foot in your restaurant.
Sure, yeah.
Because they're just coming to support that cause.
Yeah. So how do you market or how do you raise awareness about the cause? Because if all of these people are new customers, then something about the cause usually speaks to them, right? So you're using the cause as a motivator to drive business and customers. So how do they learn about the cause?
So the cause is really the group has to do the homework.
Okay.
The group has to bring in. So like I had one fundraiser called, they were doing one at Chello. It was called Friends of Rio Grande Zoo.
Yeah.
I didn't even know if that organization existed.
Yeah.
So the first thing in the morning, I saw somebody come in. I said, well, that's great. He spent like $60. So that's great. He said, I'm from France. I said, how many more do you think I should expect today?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We have about 200 members. We have told everybody. And, that I think almost all those 200 people showed up that day.
Wow.
And they supported the restaurant, and we probably wrote them a check for hundreds of dollars for that. So the group has to do their homework.
Right.
They can't just, this is not a charitable organization. We don't want the restaurant to do. The restaurant is not doing charity work, even though they're being philanthropic.
Right.
But they want you to be able to bring your supporters, so they bring in some.
Right. Yeah. Like you said,
and they get a
win-win-win.
check.
They're hosting.
So we don't allow them to put any posters up the day of the fundraiser. So if you're a regular customer there, you wouldn't know what's going on there.
Oh, okay.
Now days before we have the restaurant, they can put up, like tomorrow there's a fundraiser for this. So if you want to come back, you can come back and support them.
Right.
But on the day of the fundraiser, we don't want the regular customer to feel philanthropic about this.
Sure, yeah.
And so the restaurant makes money, and the group receives money, and it's just a fantastic. We have probably around 40 partners now, and we're hoping we will go all over the country and be able to sign them up, because it's a really inexpensive platform for a restaurant to get new customers. I mean, what I always ask, I said, what is that new guest worth to me?
Right.
How much are they worth to me? And I remember many years ago when I was in a show, I think the National Restaurant Show in Chicago, I met the Groupon people.
Oh, okay.
And I said, what do you guys do? They said, well, we take, we sell your certificates, and we give them for half price, and we give them, and they come into your restaurant and say, so what do I get out of it? He said, well, we keep half, you keep half. So they sell $20 certificate. That's what they used to anyway. For 10, they keep 5, they give you 5. I'm thinking, well, the 5 doesn't even cover my food costs. But then they tell you this great, I thought it was a great big lie, because it said, well, if they like it, they come back. But that's really not true, because a Groupon customer is a bargain hunting customer.
Right.
They're looking for bargains. So if you don't give them, if you don't give them another discount, they go to the next guy who does a Groupon.
Yeah.
I never did Groupon. I did have one franchisee that used to do it from time to time, but I thought he made a mistake. But anyway, and that's but a Fundaxi customer is a philanthropic customer. He's paying full price the first time.
Yeah.
When they come in there, they're not getting no discounts. They're paying full price. So if they like what they see, they like the show, they come back and pay again.
Right.
So I always say, what's that first time customer is worth to you?
Right.
To me, it's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
So that's our challenge of how do we take this message across. During pandemic, we participated in the pizza restaurant show in Chicago, in Las Vegas, and we presented our case, and we did get. But I don't think we were quite ready yet. This was a few years ago. I think we are ready right now.
Yeah.
I think our site and our program is very ready. We are looking at possibly participating in the National Restaurant Show at McCormick Place, Chicago this year. We're hoping to do that.
Back where it all started.
Yeah. So we'll do that and get, because as a restaurant owner, I'm looking at what is it that I can do the least expensive and better way of, and I don't really think there is not much platform out there for $600-700 a year. You're gonna get access to a lot of these. We put a URL ad, we put an address right on your website. So when you go to your restaurant website, you'll see it says do fundraising, and then a fundraising will take you to a calendar, and the calendar you would punch and say, I want to do a fundraiser on this day, and so everything is already done. Really a great job, and it's been a work of like 4 or 5 years, 5 years actually into this already.
Yeah.
So we're excited about it. It's just we're not there. We have 40 partners. I would love to have 40,000 partners on board.
Yeah.
I think we can do it.
Yeah.
And our office here supports them. When a fundraiser comes in, and you as a as a manager or owner haven't seen it yet, the office will reach out to you, say, hey, Woody, you got a fundraiser pending, so you go and approve it. Because it has to be approved before it goes live on the site.
Right.
So any given day, if you look at our website, you'll see support the cause, you'll see several fundraisers going on. We actually have one restaurant in Grants that he's doing about 10 of them a month.
Wow.
Yeah, he's doing fantastic.
Well, and that's really good because I think it endears you to the community, right? The community sees that you're doing all this positive stuff for people in the neighborhood, for anyone who's on hard times and needs to raise some funds. So I think that also was always a big role of restaurants, was that they were a community gathering place where people would come together and meet each other and network and do all these things. Naturally, you're just building a platform around it, and you're making it a little bit more structured, which is necessary because a lot of people these days have trouble reaching out and finding that community on their own because there isn't as much of a natural drive towards that with people working from home and just all the different things that have separated people more. So I think it's a really good thing you're doing, bringing all these people together for a good cause. And
right. And we encourage them. We say, hey, someone comes in, if you teach your employees, if they're there for a donation or something else, hey, if you do a fundraiser in here, bring your group, and they usually know somebody that's looking. I mean, a lot of these groups are looking for money.
yeah,
And like on our case, in our case, it doesn't have to be a non-profit organization. It could be a cause-related event, and it is just so. The whole program is it can be so effective. And we have done this. You mentioned at the beginning of this that we have raised money for police officers. We have done every time there has been an unfortunate tragedy with a police officer. We have been at the forefront trying to raise money for that officer's family. And just about a couple months ago, where Officer Ferguson got killed in Alamogordo, we reached out to our fundraising partners, some of the restaurants, Matucci's, Saggio's, and about 20 of them altogether. And we asked them if they could donate part of the proceeds for that day's sales to this officer's family. They all approved, and in one day they raised $9,300, and we rounded it off to $10,000. So we donated a check for $10,000 to the officer's family.
wow,
So we can make a difference, and now you can see if, gosh, this whole picture becomes instead of 20 restaurants, now you have 200 restaurants.
Yeah.
You could donate a check for $200,000 to
Yeah.
the, God forbid if a tragedy happens again, we can coordinate. All we have to do is a coordination from the office. We get the yes or a no,
Right.
and these guys get on board.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's just mutually beneficial for everyone.
Well, you get a restaurant that does, let's say, our Alamogordo Pizza 9, on a given day, if they did normally $3,000 in sales, they do almost $20,000 in
Wow.
sales. I mean, they do, the restaurant does get busy. They get a lot of goodwill in the community because they're doing something good, and people support those kind of things. So that part of it is very exciting, and I think we can make a big difference,
Definitely, yeah. And I think, like you said, it's a word of mouth business. So I think it will just grow naturally over time because one restaurant sees what another one's doing. They all want to be involved, and then everybody wins. So
I tell the restaurants that sooner or later you're gonna join, so they'll come on board. We make their life easier. We take there is no administrative work. All they gotta do is put the ticket separately at the end of the night, total it up, multiply by the percentage, and write that group a check.
Which is also good because they see how much business your guys are bringing in.
Exactly. They can. So we would love to see how we get this message across different restaurants or so on that part. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's great. And I think what you're doing here at Fundaxi and Pizza 9 is incredible. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. Is there anything if you were telling someone to go to a Pizza 9, what would you recommend they try for the first time?
Well,
or any of your restaurants?
Well, Pizza 9, besides the pizza, we are still one of the very few pizza places that make the dough fresh every day. So our pan pizza is fluffy and crispy. It's very good. We also do, being from Chicago, we do a Chicago beef sandwich, which is great, and I ask them to try it with the hot or mild giardiniera.
Yeah.
Which is
a classic.
A classic. A giardiniera to Chicagoans is like green chili to New Mexicans.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that usually is one of my favorites, so it's good.
Yeah, I had some at one of your Fundaxi events, and it was delicious. So, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you very much.
And stay tuned for next episode.
Thank you.